Hey everyone, and welcome back to another podcast episode of Single in Christ. As always, I am your host, Kim, and thank you for tuning in. If this is your first time, Single in Christ is a space for those who are saved, single, and embracing the journey. Now, it used to be patiently waiting, but I want us all to embrace the journey, whatever God has for us. So today I want to talk about quarantine dating because we are still going through a pandemic. So let's talk about dating during a pandemic. All right, if you want to hear more, stay tuned. All right, so let's talk about dating during a quarantine because I live in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I don't know if you're familiar with it or you are living anywhere similar, but we are still on semi-lockdown, right? The pandemic has been going on since March, and now we're in phase like 2.5 of a lockdown, so we can go some places, but not some places. But of course, in the beginning, you couldn't go anywhere, right? Total shutdown, which means for some of you, total shutdown in dating, right? So let me tell you, there were some ways you can date during the pandemic, right? You can do a virtual date. Of course, you can meet online because you can't be really going out in places because of Corona. And if you do go out, you got on your mask, you got on all your gear, and you're not really trying to talk to people because of Corona. So you got all these things going on that, normally would prohibit you from dating. However, when I tell you that you can still date during a quarantine, during a global pandemic, you can. And I have. Because you always got online, you got Plenty of Fish, you got Bumble, you got Hinge, you got Tinder, you got all of these dating apps, and those are the free ones. You got ones that you pay for, like Christian Mingle or Christian Meetup. You got eHarmony, you got Match.com, you got a bunch of paid ones, you got a bunch of free ones, so you can always be meeting people forever and ever. And that is up to you. Some people be like, no, I'm not dating online, never, ever. Okay, well, I'm not sure how you're going to beat people in a national pandemic or a global pandemic, if that's just your desire. And it's okay. Some people are like, you know what? So much is going on in the world. So much is happening. I'm not really trying to date right now. And that is fine too. However, if you are trying to date, there are certainly ways that you can. And one is definitely by going online. And that way you can, be flirty, you can be fun, you can improve your conversational skills, because that's the only thing you can do in a pandemic is talk. And if you got an iPhone, you can FaceTime. If you got an Android, you can Google Duo, or you got WhatsApp. There's so many video chatting apps out there that you can look at this person in their face, and you don't have to just text, right? You can show them on the virtual date, on your first virtual date while y'all both at home, because it's a whole pandemic outside. You can be like, oh, that's an interesting piece I see in your background. You can just kind of learn more about people. I think it's actually a very, very great time to date because all you can do is talk. There's no pressure about sex because of Corona. There's no pressure about finances being strained, the dude paying for the date, the woman paying for the date, because y'all can't go nowhere. It's Corona. It's a whole pandemic outside. You don't have to worry about getting dressed unless you want to. You can dress from the waist up, or you can just keep the phone right here on the face because it's Corona, You don't have to worry about getting your hair done and your nails done or anything because you can't, right? There's so many pressures taken off, and you can actually be your full, authentic self. The no nails, the eyebrows not done, he ain't got no haircut, his beard a little scraggly. And then you can see, is this what I really want to deal with? Yes or no? And then if you say yes, you can do a totally virtual date. iPhone, you can set it up. Y'all can have y'all separate dinners in your own separate places. It can be whatever you want it to be. The sky is literally the limit, because you in your house, y'all can say, let's watch this movie on Netflix together while we're on our phones, or you can say, let's watch this movie and then come back after the movie and discuss it. You can see an interesting piece over there. Oh, you play the guitar. Oh, I see your background. You can see how he living. You can see how she living. Are they nasty? Are they dirty? Are they neat? Are they very clean? Are they just taking you in one space? Are they always in their car? Like, why are you always in your car when you talk to me? You can just find out so much more, because that's all you have. Like, there's no, of course, there are people can put on a fake persona, right? They can put on a facade, but eventually you just in your house and y'all talking on the phone, that thing gonna drop, right? You can't keep up a facade in your house for very, very long. Like, if you go out on limited times, like, you can keep that up for a little bit, but if you're in the house just talking on the phone, it's kind of hard all the time. And then I think you can be a judge of character even more quickly, because all you have is talking, right? You can talk. So that was the first part of the pandemic. And now where, numbers are going down kind of a little bit. They might be, going back up right now, but numbers have fallen. And so the world opened up a little bit. And so now you can do social distance dates, right? You can stay your 6 feet apart. You can go to the You can go to the park. You can walk around. You can see this person in person, face to face, finally, right? You can do all these things. Some restaurants are open. You can go sit outside if they have outside seating. I know in North Carolina, there are still restrictions on in-person dining or dining in. But if your state is open or your city is open, you can still go and be 6 feet apart. You can safely date, socially distance, right? You can keep your distance. You can keep your mask on. You can look in their eyes. You can do all these things. It is very still possible to date during a pandemic if that's what you want to do. Now, let's address the people who don't want to do it. They say there's so much going on. They say everybody's working from home or whatever they're doing. People are really getting sick out here. And I understand that people are sick. People are dying. There's so much going on. And then there's so many restrictions because of COVID that you really can't live the life like you used to, right? You're not going out like you used to. You're probably not eating out like you used to. You're not driving the places you used to drive. There's no more daily commute. There's no more just kind of interacting and bumping into people. And I totally get that if that is causing you anxiety or depression, or, you're feeling isolated and lonely and you don't want to do that, totally okay. I understand. You do not have to do those things. Like, you do not have to date. You do not have to want to meet new people. You can just deal with being in a pandemic. I'm not here to judge you. I'm not here to talk down to you or about your choice of not wanting to date. That is fine. But for those of us who do, it is still possible. So let me tell you some of my experiences while dating during a pandemic. I have done the virtual dates, and they were some great, some not so great. It's a mixed bag, right? I, of course, date online. I meet people online. You chat it up on the app for a few days or however long you're comfortable chatting it up. And don't let anybody give you a timeline of when you need to get off the app. It is based on your comfortability, right? Your level of comfort. If you're really feeling this guy and you want to get off in 3 hours, cool. If you want to be on the app for 3 weeks, I wouldn't recommend it. I just wouldn't do that. But if that's what you want to do, cool. Stay on there for 3 weeks. Stay on there for 3 months. Chat it up. Get to know them through that text. Some of these apps have calling features. Like, you don't even got to give out your number. Some of them got video chatting features. He don't have to know nothing about you except your name, sis. But, if you really want a genuine connection, I don't understand why you would do that. But if you just, on there, whatever you want to do, it's up to you. No judgment. Whatever. But I was on the app. I met a nice gentleman. We chatted it up on the app. He asked for my number. We exchanged numbers. And we did virtual dating because, it's a pandemic. And then that didn't quite work out. So I met another gentleman and we went out to parks because, the park is open, but none of the the park itself is open, but the playground is closed, the bathrooms are closed, the water fountains are closed. Like everything is shut down except the benches. So we in our masks, got us a nice bench where we could sit far on either side and chat it up. And it's really no different than a virtual day, except you're in the park and you can observe different things. You can start talking about different things other than your life at home or your work from home situation or whatever you're going through in the pandemic. Like it just livened it up slightly. And then other things you can do once restaurants start opening, you can still wear your mask and then go out and sit outside. I've done that as well. And I just had a fantastic time dating during the quarantine, right? And I will never ever give you advice on something I have not done or I am not doing. So I have done all these things, and guess what? I really like dating during the pandemic because certain things are just off the table. Like hug, it's a pandemic, right? Kiss, no. It's a whole pandemic out here, right? Like, have you been tested for COVID? Have you ever, you get to ask all these different questions that you wouldn't normally ask because we're in a pandemic, right? You be like, listen, I'm not comfortable with you, being this close to me. And, sex doesn't even really come up, even though we are waiting. We're the wait gang over here. But if you're not waiting, if you don't feel comfortable having that conversation, it doesn't even have to come up because it is COVID, which I'm gonna need y'all to get comfortable telling people that you're waiting. But we'll talk about that at a different time. So now that we're past, we're out, we're in phase 2.5 in North Carolina, right? We can go out a little bit. Things shut down early. You don't got to worry about staying out. You don't got to worry about people trying to come over because it's COVID. Like, sir, we're trying to stay safe. We're trying to stay alive. Don't be trying to do too much extra. And that's why I really like dating in a pandemic, because it is still very much possible. And because everybody's kind of inside, we're forced to find ways to communicate better. We're forced to find ways to meet each other in a more creative way. Like, I cannot stress enough how many people are dating online now. It is popping, okay? And if you halfway cute, you're gonna find somebody on there that will meet your interests. And not only meet your interests in a way that they are like godly, that they pray, that they go to church, that they don't have kids, whatever your criteria are for your husband or for your wife, men, if you're listening, then you can definitely meet that person. And that person is most definitely online too. And so then now we're in a pandemic, we're dating, we're talking to different gentlemen, or you're talking to different men, and now you're out here, you're having fun, you're embracing the journey, because even though this pandemic sucks, right, it is not fun. Part of embracing the journey is taking everything in stride, like embracing everything that life has thrown at you, right? So now you're like me. If you're like me, you're single, right? No kids, never been married. You're in the house all day, every day, because you're working from home. You don't have any other people around you. I do, because I live with my sister. But she, at the beginning, she had surgery. It was a whole thing. So she really wasn't, communicating very well, or not very well, but at all. Like, she was just trying to rest up and recover and recuperate. So now you're like, okay, I'm in this space, and you might feel very lonely. You might feel very isolated, and your friends are probably going through the same thing, like your family. Everybody's suffering in this pandemic, right? It's not like one person isn't affected by it and other people aren't, right? Everybody's being affected in this pandemic, and you might be, the impact might be different for you, or you may have been an essential worker and you still got to go outside every day. That wasn't my case, and if that was your case, thank you. We appreciate you. We love you, and we appreciate the sacrifices you made to go out and help us who were able to stay home. But if you were at home, or even if you were an essential worker and you had to go out, you were still able to date, because even with the masks, right? Even with the restrictions, even with all the new sanitation guidelines, even with everybody being super clean, which I am happy about. People should have been washing their hands. Still wash your hands. But now that you know that people are trying to be more respectful, trying to be more clean, trying to be, more separate, trying to really get this thing down so we can be done with it. You can still date. So now that you're, thinking about dating, it's a quarantine, you're still kind of shut down. Now you're thinking, do you even have the time? Because now that I'm working from home, it seems like you're kind of working maybe a little bit more, right? Now that you're an essential worker, you might be working a little bit more than usual. Do you still have the time? Yes, you do. You do. If this is what you want, if you truly desire marriage or a relationship or even just to date, if that is something you want, you definitely make time for what you want. When have you ever not made time for something that you wanted to do? And if you say you want to do it and you haven't made time for it, reevaluate if you really want to do it. If this is something that you really, really want, if you really want to date, if you really want to be in a relationship, if you eventually want to be married, then why aren't you making time for it? Why aren't you making time for your self-development? Why aren't you making time to become the better person and the better woman or the better man so that you can date even more fully, so that you can have fun dating? Because let me tell you, I have been having fun dating. No, they weren't all matches, but yes, they all met criteria on my list. Yes, they were all God-loving men. Yes, they all had jobs. Yes, they all had their own place and their own cars. And most of them had no children. I think one had 2 kids. And no, it wasn't eventually a match. And no, it's not a waste of time, because I'm learning more and more about myself through this dating process. And because there is a pandemic outside, we all have a commonality that we can start discussing, right? We all have something that we can start the conversation with, like, hey, what's something that you haven't done in a while because of this pandemic, but you love to do? Conversation starter. You can talk about things because we all now have this commonality. We have all now been going through this pandemic for months, right? Rona is here, and it's been here for a while. And so now you just got a jumping off point. Like, you don't have to be nervous. If you're on one of those dating sites where women speak first, then you can speak first. Be like, hey, I'm Kim. So I'll say, hey, my name is Kim. How are you? What's something that you've been wanting to do but you haven't been able to do in a while? Right? And people will always answer because we have that common thing in common, right? We can now have that starting point, that jumping off point, and then you can go into your little rabbit holes of, oh, I wanted to go to the movies. I haven't been able to do that in a while, or swimming, or, going out to dine in a restaurant, or just going outside with other people, just things that we all have in common. And then once you get from that point, you have to hold it on your own, sis. Hold that conversation. Do those things. It is still quite possible to date. And even if you feel like you're a little scared, you're a little timid, even though outside is opening up a little bit, you can still hold those virtual dates. You can still be in your home. You can still, notice things in the background. You don't have to go outside. Because we're in a pandemic, it is still totally possible to do all those things and still have fun and still have a great time and still get to know men really well and get to know yourself even better. Like, don't use this pandemic as an excuse to not date if that's what you really want to do. Go outside, have fun, live it up, be safe, remember to be holy, and as always, embrace this journey. And thank you all for joining me on another episode of Single in Christ. I hope you all learned something. If you did, please like, please share, please subscribe. And as always, I will see you later. Love you. Bye.